At 6:15 post-meridian on January 5th, 2800, police received a report of an unmoving person floating in the pond at Junyu Hall in Shinomi City, Okayama Prefecture. The person was identified as Ms. Kansen, a 21-year-old third-year student at Kochi University. He was conducting research for the university as part of his circle's activities that day. He and the other members visited the underground lake together. It seems he headed that way, but unfortunately he was never seen again after that. This case remains shrouded in mystery, with many unanswered questions, and even now, people still talk about it. There are quite a few people who have seen images of this underground lake, or have heard about other mysterious incidents like this one. When I started looking into this case, I often came across videos and articles that focused on the unexplained aspects. In December 2013, I made a video out of personal interest, but after receiving feedback from experts regarding this case, I decided to re-examine the facts. As a result, I felt that releasing the video as it was might cause misunderstanding, so I chose not to make it public. There is a context to this, and I don't think it makes sense on its own. This time, it is said to be an incident that still leaves many unanswered questions. I compared materials such as the National Diet Library and the records of those involved and wanted to thoroughly investigate this case, so I started by researching it myself before drawing any conclusions. This case was not an inexplicable mystery, but rather a tragic accident. That's what I mean. There are answers based on facts for the points that are considered inexplicable mysteries, so I can judge that this is not a criminal case. Let me list the points that are considered inexplicable in this case. Mr. Ichi-san belongs to them. He entered together with 4 members, including the head of the circle and the vice head. Before entering the second entrance, he did not submit the required entrance permit. The 5 people at point 3 are in the Princess Dormitory's Chizin Recruitment Club, and Mr. Mukai went alone to the bottom lake. On a cold day in early April, Miss Kimono was all alone. It's only natural that she wouldn't swim. After hearing a voice saying that Mr. Go had reached the opposite shore of the underground lake, there was no voice calling for help, and then suddenly he was gone. The other 6 members barely participated in rescue efforts and failed to gather essential escape equipment like ropes. They simply went back to the entrance. In previous cases where such accidents occurred, the club president or vice president would usually hold a press conference, but in this case, that did not happen. Instead, the 8 members simply went about their interviews and reporting as usual. Masukomi is remaining silent about this case. From the homepage of the circle that Mr. 9 belongs to, the names of the club president and vice president were deleted after the incident. After the 10th case occurred, Mr. 9 logged into the Mixi, and there were changes to the profile and deletions in the diary. A friend mentioned that the club president's name had disappeared. As stated earlier, they found this case inexplicable. There are many theories, but none of them seem to have content that clearly indicates the nature of the incident. For example, some say that Mr. S was forced to swim alone in the bottomless lake, but in reality, he went to the lake on his own. And there are members who claim that Mr. O was harmed at a different location, and that these stories were fabricated to match up. Furthermore, after the incident, there was nothing hidden about Mr. S logging into his account, and it seems that the remaining members were the ones who did it. Considering all this, it doesn't seem like the president was hiding something, or that the vice president and other members were involved. In any case, nothing is clear about these theories. This case was quickly treated as an accident and handled accordingly, but there are suspicions that something bigger was at play and that it wasn't wrapped up so easily. These doubts continue to circulate. Okayama Underground Lake. This is generally known as a missing person case, but in reality, the content described in the Wikipedia article updated in 2021 is completely different. Yes, as you may already know, Wikipedia is Wikipedia, and there have always been questions about how trustworthy it is, right? Regarding this case, the article was created by the Kanachiana Self-Reporting Committee on January 5, 2008 by Kanachiana herself. The report contains the referenced information, and I have confirmed this report at the National Diet Library. The content recorded in Wikipedia matches the content of the report, and this report was created with the involvement of many organizations and stakeholders to ensure fairness by commissioning a third party to investigate. Therefore, it is highly relevant to this case. It can be judged as accurate information. As for the content, what exactly does it say? First of all, the main focus in the creation of the report was on the organization that Mr. Kokoronata belonged to. It was not Kochi University, but rather Aichi University, and the person who participated in this camp belonged to Aichi University, not only a Kochi University member. Not only members from Kochi University, but also members of the mountaineering clubs and exploration clubs from many major universities in China and Shikoku participated. Among them, from Kochi University, both Mr. and the club leader took part. 3 current students and 1 other person participated, but in fact, the only member from Kochi University who entered this Himekura Kanachiana was Mr. Besides that, there were 3 current students from Kagawa University and members belonging to the Matsuke Carving Club. There was one 29-year-old man. One unclear point is that Mr. 1 is the head of the circle he belongs to, and also includes the vice head. It is said that Mr. 1 entered together with the other 4 members, and he belongs to that group. Is the head of the circle a woman? Actually, she did not enter the cave, so at this point, the explanation of the incident is fundamentally mistaken. The accident actually happened on January 5th, but in fact, the group entered the cave twice at the inn, with the first entry being on January 2nd. This fact raises an unresolved question. Why was it necessary to enter the cave a second time? Why didn't they submit the entry permit? The group members entered the cave without submitting the entry permit, didn't they? That's quite a reckless group. If there are a lot of people, it's only natural to follow the rules in advance. Actually, I didn't know about this Kanachiana Peak, so I looked it up. Currently, submitting an entry permit is mandatory, but at the time of the accident, it wasn't required, just so you know. On January 2nd when entering, there was no entry report made at the mouth of Himesaka Kanachiana Shrine, as there was no attendant. Also on January 5th when the accident occurred, there was still no attendant, so no report was made. Given this situation, it's unreasonable to say that Mr. Kimitsumari should be blamed for not submitting the entry notification. The third inexplicable point. The 5 people are in western Himesaka Kanachiana. Miss Mukai went alone into the underground lake. It's unnatural for someone to swim alone in just their clothes during the cold season of January. None of the 5 people, including Mr. Member, noticed her. It's said to be strange that only one person, Miss Makoto, entered the bottomless lake alone during the middle of winter, but at this lodge, it was a tradition to swim across the bottomless lake in the western part. This is also mentioned in the case files, but the background is completely different. According to the reports, in 2006, 10 people entered the water and 5 swam, and in 2007, 11 people entered and 9 swam. Looking at the numbers, it's clear that not everyone swam across the bottomless lake, nor was it mandatory. Only those who wanted to swim did so. Also, the bottomless lake itself has appeared in the news several times. The shape is completely different from the images commonly seen. Those images show an egg-shaped lake with a depth of 5 meters from the bottom to the water's surface. But in reality, from the entrance to the water's surface, the drop is stepped. That's right. Yes, that's right. Also, the depth of the underground lake is often depicted in images as suddenly becoming deep from a spot where it's only knee-deep at first. But that's not actually the case. The difference in perception of the shape is significant, and it has a big impact. So, why is that? Now let's talk about why Mr. Sanda decided to swim on the day of the accident. On the day of the accident, among the party members who had made it all the way to the underground lake, it was Mr. Sanda who expressed the intention to swim in the underground lake. Mr. San and Matsu. Mr. San and Mr. Matsu from the caving club were present. Mr. Kashi, unsure of his swimming skills, hesitated before deciding against it. Mr. San said it would be impossible for him. He said it would be fine if we had a pin or a float, and in response, the other members didn't say anything. Then, without a word, Mr. Koro started swimming from the center of the underground lake toward the opposite shore. The remaining members just watched over Mr. Koro in silence, shining their lights around him. There's also the question of why Mr. San swam during the middle of winter, but in reality, this Onna cave is usually called the Pond of the Gods because it's located deep inside. You can't proceed beyond that point. It's only during the cold winter season that you can reach the bottom of the lake. When I asked about this, I was told that you can't swim in the bottom lake except during this time of year, which is why the inn is open only during this season. Also, swimming fully clothed inside the main hall is one of the rituals, so it's not that unusual. Still, I think he was completely soaked by the time he reached the bottom of the lake, so that's probably what happened. So, there was no need to take off your clothes. What did he do after that? Let's move on to the next mystery, the fifth unexplained point. After a voice announced Mr. Sen's arrival on the opposite shore of the underground lake, he vanished without any cries for help or further sounds from his location. In fact, Mr. Sen's actions were detailed in the report. He stopped once at a point about 2/3 of the way across the underground lake, waved to the members, and seemed to make a motion as if to return. But after that, he started swimming toward the opposite shore again and reached it. Afterward, he was seen resting with his waist on the shore, either swimming or getting out of the water. He was seen by the other members, and after that, the members were talking to each other as usual. But within just a few seconds after they looked away from Mr. San, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. What becomes important here is the shape of the underground lake. It is generally imagined that way. It's usually imagined as an egg shape, and you might think you can see the whole thing with the light, but in reality, it's more like a bowl shape, and there are many blind spots. It is assumed that after the members lost sight of Mr. San, they called out to him several times, and Mr. San also responded several times. After that, the members called out to him every 10 to 15 seconds, but after the third or fourth time, there was no response from Mr. San. It is presumed that Mr. San was in a state where he couldn't move or call out for help, and eventually couldn't even make a sound. Also, according to the official report, there is no record of anyone hearing a sound like a splash or a thud right after Mr. San disappeared, nor is there any significant difference in his actions just before he disappeared. So, the theory that he fell into the water because he lost his balance has been questioned. This theory seems to have originated from a post on an internet message board right after the incident. There are also many mysterious testimonies, such as people claiming to have heard a voice calling from deep inside, and it seems to have become a sudden and inexplicable event. And furthermore, according to the next report, the remaining 6 members hardly engaged in any rescue activities, nor did they collect the necessary ropes and other equipment for an escape. As far as we can see from the report, there is no complete record of their actions after returning. According to the report, after Mr. San's accident, the remaining members immediately began searching, entered the bottom of the lake, and desperately searched for Mr. San by shining lights on the surface of the lake, but unfortunately, they could not see Mr. San's figure. So, considering the possibility of searching underwater, they didn't have the proper equipment for underwater search, and as a result, they couldn't continue searching any further. In the incident theory, it's often said that someone was left behind on purpose to make sure Mr. San was really dead. But if you look at the report, you can see that the actual facts are completely different. The key point is the hot spring where they stopped, as the remaining members were exhausted. The group planned to split up, with 2 staying behind and 2 seeking help, but they persisted in their search for Mr. San. In addition, everyone was soaked in water, and staying in that state for a long time would lead to stagnation. They attempted to stay warm and endure, constantly fearing something bad might occur. In order to avoid secondary disasters, everyone made the difficult decision to return. They also left messages like this for Mr. Mochizuki in case he returned. "We'll wait here. Please come and rescue us." But they didn't realize that they themselves were also in danger. They left a highly moisture-resistant survival sheet behind, which was later discovered by the search team. The note also said that they had collected all the ropes and other necessary items for escape. All of this was carefully documented. They judged that the materials they used when entering would be necessary for the later search, so they left all the materials behind. Now let's escape. In similar past incidents, the department head or deputy typically acted as spokesperson. Normally a press conference would be held, but since that hasn't happened, the media has been reporting on the situation as it unfolds. Masukomi is being criticized for remaining silent in its prefecture, and that's what this is about. After the incident in Kochi Prefecture, a countermeasures headquarters was established. The Kochi University Academic Affairs Student Support Division spokesperson handled media responses, according to the report on the incident. From the afternoon of January 6, the day after the incident occurred, the person in charge responded to interviews. The students were informed not to respond to the media at all. For media interviews, a person from the Kochi University Student Support Division handled the responses. It was not a situation where students, including the club president or vice president, would hold a press conference. Regarding the point that the media has remained silent in this prefecture, the prefecture considered that, based on previous experience, there was no criminal aspect to the case, so there were hardly any interviews. This is from the homepage of the circle that Mr. Q belongs to. Regarding the removal of the names of the club president and vice president, this case was reported when the accident happened. The content reflects the police report and announcement at that time. On the Internet Bulletin Board's second channel, many threads were created, and among them, there was one about the group you belong to. The names of the club president and vice president were deleted from the circle's homepage. There were people who were concerned about that, and at this point it was said to be a fact. Also, considering the sequence of events, it seems like there might be something more behind the incident. It's not just that the names were deleted, but rather, it seems that the club president and vice president, who were in positions of responsibility, were removed as unidentified persons. Also, their names had been listed on the homepage. In fact, the president and vice president had already resigned from the club before the incident occurred, and at the time of the accident, the next president and vice president had already taken over, so the reason their names were removed from the club's homepage could simply be because of the change in leadership. But even from that perspective, it doesn't seem entirely natural. In the incident theory, this flow is interpreted as if the president and vice president were somehow involved in the disappearance. But on the other hand, there are also suspicions that this story is being exaggerated to make the incident theory more credible. This is the next point to consider. After the 10th incident occurred, there was a login to Mr. Mikushi's Mixi account, and both the profile and diary entries were deleted. Additionally, Mr. Sarani's friend observed that the president's name had vanished. Regarding this inexplicable theory, these are the facts, and while these points are factual, I think it's possible that this case has become a much bigger and more complicated incident than we initially thought. This is about the changes made to Mr. Masu's account, but if I list them, it would be like this. The username was changed, and all items that should have been updated are now private, with the update history completely deleted or suspended. He withdrew from the community called the Caver Alliance. And so, the person known as Haku among friends disappeared. The disappearance of Haku, who was a friend, was noticed first. His name disappeared from the circle's homepage. As the club president, I also noticed that this person's profile had been changed, and even their username was different. All the diary entries were deleted, the introduction text was deleted, and from the list of hobbies, both drinking and outdoor activities were removed. This account was supposed to belong to the club president, but that assumption disappeared. In the introduction, it was written as aggressor, and within that, there was a rare kanji character that matched the club president's name. However, that kanji is used by about 150 people nationwide, so it could be someone else's account with the same rare kanji. The timing of the content changes and the timing of the changes to this account's content match. Considering these points, it's almost certain that this is the club president's account, so it's believed that it was the club president who made changes to Mr. Yahari's account. The reason is that after the changes to Mr. Yahari's account, the name turned white, which is associated with the club president's precious identity and position. From Mr. Yahari's account, it's believed to be the club president. There was a note on the internet that this account disappeared from the friends list, but now both accounts have returned to the friends list. Actually, on Mixi, both parties need to approve to become friends, so it's natural to think that the club president operated and approved it. But how did Mr. Yahari log into the account? The method is that Mixi has a simple access feature, which is Mr. Yahari's mobile phone. From the phone, it's possible to log in without entering a password. Mr. Tatoba is clearly an outsider before entering the staff room. Getting to the underground lake is difficult, and swimming across it is even harder, so it's not an easy task. Of course, carrying a cell phone is not allowed. When you consider the risk of breaking in or drowning, it's easy to imagine that someone might have planned ahead. However, the person in question was actually the head of a university club participating in the same training camp, so it's not a suspicious story. Also, there are other possibilities like using a password autocomplete function on a shared computer in the circle room to log in, but in any case, the account itself was not deleted and remained unchanged. The name's association with the club president was, in fact, contrary to reality. Even though it is being emphasized that this case is not criminal in nature, if the club president was really involved in your loss, I don't think he would have chosen an account name that would make people associate it with himself. Also, regarding the deletion of your account, since manual password entry is required, I don't think it would have been possible even if he wanted to. In fact, from your diary and the diaries of other circle members, it is clear that you were regularly drinking in the dormitory, so I thought it was unlikely that there was any malice involved. It can be considered that these actions were taken to protect themselves or to cover up the situation, but ironically, that only fueled the suspicion that this was a criminal case. As a result, there are still some points that cannot be explained by the current theory, but this is how I interpret this situation for now. Her activities were cut short early, and 10 days later, her work was completely stopped. But when you look at the overall picture of her admission, it's puzzling. Kanichiana swiftly joined the group, taking only about 3 hours to reach the underground lake in the western area from inside. Just getting there alone would drain a lot of Kanari's stamina, and on top of that, the search activities from there would be difficult, making her chances of survival very low. Therefore, it's not particularly strange to consider the possibility of a second victim. Masu Membara's testimony has 2 or 3 points. Regarding this, that's how it is. Actually, there is nothing at all, not even with the victim. The department head was involved in a romantic relationship, and this was part of Mikushi Kaizan's investigation, so it seems that was the case. There is actually no evidence to suggest a romantic relationship. This is clear from part of Miss Sakurai's diary, which I mentioned earlier. It shows that she was involved in circle activities, drinking inside the dormitory, and sometimes skipping classes. I think these were omitted for the sake of privacy, and nothing more. Let's leave it at that for now. I was comparing the official story with the actual facts, but I hope you understand that there are significant differences between the two sides. That's all I wanted to say. Was it because the story of the Okayama bottom of the lake missing persons case spread so widely? That was the internet at the time. The incident story spread on the message board channel. Also, the fact that the content referencing the report to Wikipedia was recorded in 2011 is considered a major reason. At the time on the channel, right after the incident occurred, there were already threads listing the suspicious points and issues with the story. After that, in July of the same year, the accident happened. About half a year later, the report on this case was created and I read it. Someone wrote that content on the channel. Because of that, the case started to be seen as not an incident but more like an accident. For a while, things quieted down, but then came the year 2012. Again, posts pointing out the inconsistencies in the case started to appear, and the theory that this was not an accident but an incident began to spread, gaining more attention. There was an article in a Pennsylvania magazine based on the report in 2011, but it didn't really get much recognition. That's the current situation. From here on, I'd like to talk in my own words, but in the videos I had kept private, I discussed this case based on the incident theory. While I was working on making the video, I ended up spreading some incorrect information to those who watched it. I sincerely apologize for that. I also want to express my gratitude to those who pointed out my mistakes. From now on, I want to make sure I share accurate information. I'm now working on producing this video. The report was posted on pages 7, 10, and 14, which I have now removed. There may be additional issues beyond just the content. The report contains detailed information about this case and is available in Tokyo and also in Kyoto. You can view it at the National Diet Library for reference. If you know anything, please let us know. Even if it's just a small clue, please tell us in detail about this case. There is someone, Mr. Zakiryu, who wrote a report on his blog. He also conducted detailed research, which greatly contributed to the production of this video. I would like to express my gratitude here. Thanks to Mr. Zakiryu pointing out my mistakes, I was able to correct them. I am truly grateful. This time, I really felt how much I rely on everyone, including Mr. Kiryu. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you notice anything else, please let me know. That's all for this time. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it very much.